no ki tonga, kia ngā kia ki uta, kia ngā taratara putai, kia hia ki ana tirikura, tio, luka, rohu, tupuru, piti, wanoa, kia tina, kuie, pai. And welcome everyone. Apologies, we have two, Nick Brown and Richard Buttermore. We have an off-course substitute for the Feds. Welcome. We have an online attendee, Mike Neal, and let's begin with the minutes from the 28th of April. Are there any corrections required?
Through the chair, yes, there's three that I'd like to suggest.
Right, let's start with the first one.
Paragraph 4.1, a simple substitution, removing the word reflects to responds.
Okay, one moment.
Responds to law.
Hang on. 4.1, and we're just getting that. Take. 4.1, you're wanting, sorry?
Oh, where it says that the policy reflects the law reforms.
And you want deletion of reflects and substitution for?
Responds.
Responds. Is there a seconder to that motion? Shihan seconds. Anyone wish to be heard? If not, the motion is moved. All in favour? Right. Second matter?
Next paragraph, 4.2. I'm suggesting the deletion of the aspects that say they are often not directly involved in enforcement, and state there are ongoing discussions regarding enforcement.
I'm sorry, I'm just not entirely clear where that comes out.
If we...
So which line are we talking about in 4.2?
Yes. It is...
They're not, so the line starting in the second line, they are not often directly involved in enforcement?
Yes, correct.
And what would you want?
There are ongoing discussions regarding enforcement.
Okay. Is there a seconder to that? In the absence of a seconder, then the motion fails.
No, I second that.
Oh, you are going to second it now. Okay. Right, that's seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Chair, just with that, I mean, every enforcement that we do would not be the same. So it may not be discussions, it may just be, it'll reflect on what the enforcement's about rather than, and unless there's a significant incident. So I think that probably covers it. Not everyone will be the same.
But as I understand it, that the wording that is sought is that there are ongoing discussions regarding enforcement.
Well, it may not be the case. They may not be able to.
And I may have misunderstood, but I thought this was around the policy itself rather than an individual case. Mr. McLeay, are you able to assist?
You are 100% right.
That is frequently the way it is.
Put that in the minutes for next time.
So with that explanation, and we have a mover and a seconder, all in favour?
Right.
Aye. Right. Any opposition? Right. And I believe you have a third amendment.
Yeah, the last one was about the motion itself, and I did double check my notes just to ensure it was accurate reflection. It's currently...
What page?
It's the...
Page 8, I think she's talking about the resolutions that follow after 4.2.
Yeah, apologies, I need to get bifocals and I can't see them.
The resolution currently reads that the Taranaki Regional Council defer the resource management enforcement policy until the new legislation is complete and consultation can be undertaken with mana whenua.
Yes, my proposal after the word until, is to say, until consultation can be undertaken with mana whenua alongside engagement on the new legislation. As I understood our kōrero last time, those two things were to go in tandem, the reforms and the consultation, and I didn't want to put TRC at risk of looking like consultation wouldn't happen until after the new legislation, which is what they're suggesting there. So my suggestion is consultation can be taken with mana whenua alongside engagement on the new legislation.
Steve.
Madam Chair, the critical issue is what motion was discussed on the day.
Yes.
Review of the minutes is not a time to re-debate the motion. And can I suggest that we maybe defer this to a subsequent item, that staff be asked to investigate the video recording of the meeting and perhaps report back with a copy of the transcribed version of the discussion and the motion that was put on the day, so that we can be sure the minutes accurately reflect the motion that was debated on that day.
Because the point you probably make is that the minutes are intended to be an accurate record of what transpired.
Yes.
Not subject to rewrite necessarily unless there's an error in them.
Yes.
So I'm going to suggest that we adopt the proposal of the Chief Executive and that there be a review of the transcript, and if you would provide that part of the transcript to all councillors and the ED reps as well, please. On that basis, we won't proceed with the third correction. With the two corrections that have been made, I'm going to move that the minutes be accepted as a true and accurate record. Do I have a seconder?
Yep.
Lee, all in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Now, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which are resource consents issued under delegated authority. Leah, from your sick bed, no less.
Lucky I'm not in bed. Morena koutou. So we have a couple here, one from the first agenda, one from the second, so I'll just combine them. The non-notified authorisations issued by the Taranaki Regional Council. So I'm looking at between 1st of April and 15th of June. So we did 1 coastal permit, 31 discharge permits, 12 land use consents and 3 water permits. So between 1st of July and 30th of April we had received 198 applications, and we had at the time 183 applications in process and had granted 273. We are currently working on 13 notified consent application bundles, with 1 application publicly notified and 5 limited notified this year. You'll also notice there's been a bit of a change in how we've laid out the non-notified schedule. So the reasoning for that is that we've noticed the lengthened comment from the iwi. It used to be an email with a few paragraphs. It's now quite often an attachment. So it might be a 7-page document for a bridge consent. So rather than putting the entire length of that document into the agenda, my team has attached it as an appendix to try and make it a little bit more streamlined. However, if that doesn't work, let us know. But with the comments getting longer and longer and longer, it just means that the documentations that we provide you for reading will also get longer. So happy to take any comments or questions on any of those things. Thank you.
Right, anyone got any questions or comments they wish to make? If not, we...
Oh, then may I respond to your reformatting point through the chair? Just to say, I did find that extremely helpful to have the full documents attached. I just wondered if there was a way just to help with the referencing so we can keep track of the table of your comments, because what was quite helpful in the method that you had previously was we could see really clearly the council's response, to each aspect of the matters that were raised. But I'm happy to have a follow-up query if that's easier. I did want to ask through the chair.
Well, let's just deal with things one at a time. As far as the referencing idea goes, Leah, what is your take on that?
Referencing, I'm not sure. Sorry, what I don't know what you mean. We've put a hyperlink in so you can go to it. So referencing, do you mean you had a comment and then beside it you had a response?
Yes.
Okay, so for that, that's quite easy when we have an email with specific comments, but once it starts being a 7-page document with comments, then you're looking at a table that's probably, I don't know, 14 pages long. So it's quite difficult to specifically respond to every single comment as the comments are getting longer and longer and longer. So I don't know how wieldy that would be in the agenda.
Well,
If we want to go back to that.
this hyperlinking is something you're only doing very recently. Is that right, Leah?
Yeah, that's because the commentary is getting longer. I
understand
believe,
that.
you know,
Why don't we
with
give
the
it a couple of...
advancements in technology, there's an ability to do more in that space.
Why don't we, in the for say next 2 or 3 months, just do as we're doing and see how that goes? And if there are concerns about its workability, then you might want to take those offline and speak directly to Leah once you've given her a couple of months to bed in this new process. Is that acceptable to you, Ali? Right. You have another matter that you wanted to raise?
Well, it was just to illustrate this. On page 25, there's a council response at the bottom of the page here, which states that in the absence of a CIA, that the council has considered EV management plans. So when I cross-checked with what was written by the EV, they were actually requesting a CIA. So my question is the council endorsing that request for a CIA? Like, what was the feedback to the actual request?
I see.
Yeah.
It depends. It's very much case by case. So quite often the CIAs will be done for the larger scale consents, but for a small one, I mean, we get CIA requests for precast bridges put in over the river, outside of the bed of the river. So it really depends on the case, on the consent, and whether it's going to be notified or whether it's not, and what their level of effects are. But we can make it, I don't know, more clear if that's what you would like, saying whether a CIA has been requested or not.
Yes, and the council response, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Right, anybody for any more? If not, we are being asked to receive the schedule made under delegated authority. Do I have a mover? John, seconder? Lee, all in favour?
Right.
Thank you, Leah. Go back to bed.
Yes. Kia whikiti ora.
And now we're on to incidents and compliance. Jared.
Kia ora. Through you, Chair. Compliance monitoring and incidents, 3rd April to 11 June, so it's an 11-week period this time. Does coincide with a quieter period of the year for us. So 80 incidents reported, 46 of those were compliant, 26 are non-compliant, with 8 further updates. Compliance monitoring, 10 non-compliances and 2 updates. End of financial year means a lot of the compliance monitoring programs for the year are winding up, hence not a massive amount of work in that space at this time of year. Further than that, there's just a couple of, there's an incident on page 174, ENF 25048. That should be...
Hang on, just let's get it there. So 174.
Yeah, page 174.
Yep.
ENF 25048.
Right.
That shouldn't be closed off.
Right, So does anybody have any questions or comments for Jared? Perhaps I can raise a matter that it seems to me that there is, as always, the fires and the unauthorised earthworks. We were doing pretty well with fires for a while. Do we need to revive that publicity program? Because I'm imagining that most people don't want to be in trouble with the TRC.
It's an interesting one, and it's ticking along. We could do a bit more comms in that space. The difficulty is trying to reach those people that are burning. They're not always people that are overly engaged in the social media side of what council does. All the incidents we do go to, we look at whether we've been there before, and if we've been there before, we step up the action. And you'll see there's no formal warnings given out. So we try and assess it on an effects based as well as whether you can do it or not. So if it's unauthorised material having off-site effects, we do try and be reasonably firm with them. Otherwise, we try and use education for those properties we haven't been to before and are not having off-site effects. It's hard to determine exactly the best way to reach out to them.
Yeah,
I've got another comms pattern that would...
But we seem to have done a really good job a while back with one of your staff becoming sort of the face of a regional council.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether there's value in reviving that kind of program, because it's obviously in everybody's best interest to avoid breaches as opposed to playing catch up.
And I think for a lot of people there's a cost aspect to the activity. Risk with reward for the cost to get rid of some of this material.
Okay.
So through you, Madam Chair, we could run that program again. You may, if you're watching social media, see James Coxon, the foreman, and talking about supplying synthetic nitrogen data to the council. So along the same lines. So we're using those tools to help increase communication between the parties.
Yeah. And unauthorised earthworks seems to be another cluster, doesn't it?
So we could do one for that as well, because they're ongoing. It's just when you run them.
John?
I think it's a good idea to do the repeat every sort of quarter probably, because when I used to be working in another world, there seemed to be a 3 or 4 month memory when we had a program of works, and people forgot after 3 or 4 months. It was more around the safety side of things than the heat side, but it's just that front of mind thing, I think.
Out of all that, there's probably 2 townships that would be, if we could reach out to, would be really beneficial to drop those numbers. We'll have a think about things and see what we can come up with.
Anybody else for any more?
There's nothing like a good beer.
Well, you're Cro-Magnon man, so I'm not surprised you're in favour of fires. Ellie and then John.
Did you want to go? I was on this. Yeah, I had the same observation, Madam noted that a lot of the feedback was people pleading ignorance. So the proactive leaflet drops or whatever it takes, I guess, would be useful. One question on water samples. There's a reference on 161 and 169. It's useful to see when water samples are taken, is it feasible to include the results of the water sampling?
Not really. We try and include, if there's a specific measure that's breached a rule, we try and include those. But if it's simply that the discharge and contravention, it would be quite, without sufficient commentary, we'd have to be careful exactly trying to list all that data and what that all means. If it's to do like with compliance monitoring non-compliances, if it relates to a specific parameter in the consent, we will list that parameter, but again we won't go into all the downstream effects. And
oh yes, no, I meant more if you're able to say results were received, no compliance issues. Because otherwise, when I'm reading that, I'm assuming you haven't received the results. Do you see what I'm saying? When you say that you've taken samples, is it possible to just indicate whether it was clear or whether there was a contravention?
Yeah, I can have a look at that, but it's in the non-compliant register. So the activity itself is non-compliant. That's the trigger.
Yes, although if there's water testing taken, are we then to assume if you've indicated you've taken the water test, if the results were all within range, are we to assume that? If it indicates that you've taken the test, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, the sample results, so the activity is non-compliant and the sample results help us assess the what action we should take as a result of that breach. So often
Yes.
the sample results don't
It's not a pass or fail.
don't change it as to being compliant versus non-compliant. It's non-compliant and the sample results assess the effect on the environment. And it's that information that helps us determine what the appropriate action is.
But there are environmental limits and ranges with respect to those samples, correct? Because that's what the NES is for. So is it possible just to give us indication when you're taking sampling if it's raising anything of concern or not? Or otherwise, do we just assume when you're taking the samples? Well, now it sounds like when you're taking the samples, it indicates there has been a compliance breach. I'm just trying to understand the ramifications.
Well, perhaps this is a discussion that might be best taken offline.
Okay.
Rather than occupy more time now, if that's acceptable. Now, John, you can...
That's more of a comment really than a question, but if you look at the non-compliance running total graph, right, that's up until June like this year, right?
Yes.
So what's the really good continued result there? Like obviously year on year, things are getting better. Is that education and enforcement, or is it both?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think the biggest banger in the whole thing is actually when people ring, getting out there and talk to people, just responding to incidents. I think as far as the deterrent, the action you take is secondary a little bit to actually just going out there and engaging with people.
My comment is it's a good result, right?
Yeah. And I think that's a result of getting a phone call and trying our best to get out there as, within a reasonable time frame to attend it. Rather than sort of triaging, it's really hard and waiting for them to be really bad before they come to council's attention.
Well, it's
So if
always
we can
fun
do
to
that-
nip it in the bud, isn't it?
Yeah, if we can do that quickly, then, a simple dust complaint, if we get out there straight away, we can stop 5 more complaints from the same site. So I think that's probably the biggest one.
All right, has anybody
I'll
else
move
got
the motion on
anything?
146.
Pardon, 146?
Yeah, I'll move the recommendations.
Oh, I had one more.
Right, what did you want?
On page 175, I just wanted to commend you and your team on this pretty epic piece of compliance work. And absolutely fabulous to see that close collaboration with Ngāti Rāngai and the outcome, even as the investigation is continuing, to see that partnership deepen to the point that we have tikanga practices within the opening of the new site is, absolutely well done, really good to see. You've mentioned macroinvertebrate monitoring. I know you're working on cultural health index work also. Is that something that could, is there any update in terms of how the cultural health index is developing, and could this be a potential deployment context?
Plausibly, we could re-engage Graham on that and have some chats around that when that site blessing kicks in.
Madam Chair, it comes down to what the consent conditions are and what's in the consent conditions. Because absolutely, they're either compliant with that or not. And I'm not aware that CIAs are in consent conditions. So.
Thank you. Right, Tom, you've moved that we receive the memorandum and the summary and note the action taken by staff. Do I have a seconder? Mike, all in favour?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion is passed. Next item on the agenda is Key Native Ecosystem Program update. Lee.
We like positive comments.
Ata Marae, I'm Lee and I lead the biodiversity team at Taranaki Regional Council. I'm here to give you an update on the Key Native Ecosystem Program. So the biodiversity strategy for the council sets out 4 priorities, one of which relates to the protection of K&Es on privately owned land, and a K&E has regionally significant biodiversity values. Officers work with landowners, iwi community groups to promote the voluntary protection, maintenance and improvement of ecological values. So any landowner can seek an assessment of habitat or a population of threatened species that's on their property. We have a criteria. The office provide this free service and do it in conjunction with the landowner. So far this year, 13 new K&Es have been identified, covering 826.3 hectares. So the K&E inventory of the council now contains 412 K&Es covering 133,557 hectares. 334 of these are partially or completely privately owned. In addition, last year we wrote 15 new biodiversity plans covering a total area of 2,543 hectares. So we're now up to 271 K&E sites covering 15,652 hectares that are under active management through a council biodiversity plan. So a biodiversity plan provides site-specific information on agreed management actions for the protection, maintenance or restoration of Indigenous biodiversity at the site. And this can cover a range of work from legal protection, fencing, weed control, trapping, ungulate control. So you'll see the list of new K&Es there, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about them. We have shifted our focus last year to sites that have been identified in a prioritisation as being the most threatened, most critical, rarest in the region, and this includes good quality wetlands, coastal sites like Herbfield, Duneland, and rare forest types like kahikatea. So you'll see a number of the sites in the list are wetlands, swamp forest, repo, and so that's the focus there. One of the sites, Tumahu Bush, contains a regionally significant population of ornate skink. So almost all reptiles, native reptiles in the region are critical, and so working with the landowner at Tumahu Bush means that we can protect this population of skink. We've also been working closely with QE2, and so a number of the sites as part of the biodiversity plan process have received legal protection in the last year. So QE2 has been under pressure with budget constraints, so we have been doing our best to also work with the district councils and the TRC land management team to see whether stress funding can also contribute to some of those sites. So we're taking a sort of more holistic approach to how we go about that. Almost all the new K&Es have plans, and those that don't have been identified for plans in 2026-27. So, as I said, 334 of the sites are partially or completely privately owned, and so they cover approximately 16% of the privately owned Indigenous vegetation in the region.
Excellent.
Yes.
There is no other word that would sensibly meet such an achievement. Anybody else got something they want to say? If not, can I have someone move that? You do want to say something, Leo?
Yes, just to echo what you said, Chair, and to commend your awesome work. I had the privilege of working on 2 upcoming ones, and I really hope that this work is centred and protected throughout all the reform processes. I really appreciated the maps that you showed as well, with a little dot indicating where in Taranaki, and also the more specific slate location map. Is there any potential to include information within which statutory acknowledgement area within our 8 iwi these K&Es fall under? And is there any discussion with the landowners as you're doing this in terms of that relationship with, or the potential for relationship with mana whenua?
Yeah, so we've implemented a data sharing agreement with landowners because we collect a lot of biodiversity data right from the time that we step onto the site. And as part of that data sharing agreement, there is a section in there about whether they want to share their data externally to the council, and that's not personal location information, it's the biodiversity data itself, so that we can upload it to GBIF or INAT and share it for the wider community. But there's also a section in the data sharing agreement about whether they are comfortable with tangata whenua being involved with the work at that site, because so quite often when we do work at a site, we have a good relationship, for example, with Ngāti Mutuna, so quite often we will take their potaia on site and do monitoring. Anne-Marie will be part of the monitoring on site, and some landowners are very receptive and they're happy for that, and some aren't. But we're definitely working more closely with mana whenua, working within the rohi to try and bridge that gap.
And through you, Chair, I think it's worth noting that this is one of the many non-regulatory programs that we have and what can be achieved just by working with mana whenua and with landowners.
Yeah. Awesome. Indeed. Right, on that cheery note, can I have someone move that we note the various sites and note the biodiversity plans that have been prepared? Happy, Alan and John to second, all in favour? Anyone in opposition? No. So, thank you, Lee. Regional Sector Group Biomanagement Plan, Biomanagement Overview, Dan.
Morena tātou. So this is a presentation that I gave to the Regional Sector Group back in May. So for those of you that don't know, the Regional Sector Group is the chairs of the regional councils across New Zealand and the mayors of the unitaries, and CEOs also attend this forum. So we thought it would be quite useful for you to also receive this information so that you can see what's happening, not just what's going on in Taranaki and by Taranaki Regional Council, but what's happening at a national level as well. So there we go. Oh, slight delay. Now I need to go back. There we go. I'll learn to drive it soon. So I think first of all, it's worth knowing about the Te Uta Kahika, which is the collective noun for the regional sector. So there is a virtual office, but we also have a number of SIGs, which are special interest groups, which are really the powerhouse of the of Te Uta Kahika. So the SIGs are basically the different disciplines that we undertake throughout the regional sector. It's an opportunity where for different staff to come together, network, share knowledge, experience, approaches, push joint collective projects, and ultimately set a broader direction of travel across all councils. They all work a bit differently, but it's a good way for us to come together as a collective and discuss some of the complex challenges that we have and how we can solve those. So you're not able to read that, I'm aware of that, but basically the blue boxes along the top are the lead SIGs. So the one with the red circle around it, or the red box around it, is biomanagers. I'm one of the co-conveners alongside Judith Earl Goulet from ECAN, and then there's the biosecurity and the biodiversity subgroups that report up to the lead SIG. We're very lucky we've got Steve as our CE sponsor for the biomanagers SIG, alongside Jonathan Gibbard from Northland Regional Council. And just out of interest, just to the right there is the climate SIG, and Abby is one of the co-conveners of the climate SIG. We also have people across TRC within pretty much all of the SIGs and sub-SIGs making their contribution to the national projects, if you like. In terms of biomanagement, so biomanagement's an area that we've been working collaboratively on For decades, animals and plants, pests and weeds don't respect boundaries, so it's critical for us to work together across our boundaries and jurisdictions to be effective. So our sector work focuses on adding value to improve our home council programs and working together for bigger impact where we can. So the Biomanagers SIG has a clear strategy with 4 PO that drive our work program. The first one is system alignment and integration. Biodiversity and biosecurity are a New Zealand challenge, and we need an effective system to respond. We have a statutory role in bio, just like DOC and MPI do. So we need to be clear on our place in the system and work together with others, government, iwi, landowners, to enable the whole to be effective. Second PO, improving our practice methodologies and knowledge. So this is pretty self-explanatory, continuous improvement of our toolbox, including our ability to monitor how we're progressing. So it includes our science and tech development, research into different techniques, tools and methodologies, and sharing best practice with each other. Mobilising resources, that's pretty much making sure we've got the right people with the right skills to do the job. Influential leadership, this is a really significant one. This is about relationships so that we can take advantage of opportunities or remove barriers. We want to work with government on national programs, regulation and reform. So we've got many projects on the books within biodiversity and biosecurity, which vary in scale and effort, and many of these are working with other agencies across the system, particularly DOC and MPI. So it's essential to stay aligned as a sector across regions. Te Uru Kahika and the SIG network are key ways to do that. Some examples of where we do that is the Clean Vessel Plan, so top of the north. So this is a marine biosecurity space to manage risks to the marine biodiversity. 4 regions have come together to develop a connected way of managing the vessel movement pathway, which is by far the biggest pathway for marine pest spread. So the proposal puts a consistent way of doing things in place, same program, same rules across the 4 regions, which is important because people move around the country and there's different rules in different regions, so this makes it much more simple for them. And so this, makes it a lot more simple for everyone. Another one is the gold clam. So we've learned significantly from Waikato. Obviously they got the gold clam there first, and in particular our education programs, which enabled us to recognise or be aware of the fact that we had gold clam in Taranaki, and then we were able to act and respond to that. Biodiversity monitoring, developing and working to shared methods so that we're measuring consistently and our data is comparable and useful between ourselves and others in the system. Working with our system partners, so we have statutory roles in biosecurity and biodiversity management, which makes us a key system player. So everyone who does something for biodiversity and biosecurity is part of that system. Some of these we work with at place, so mana whenua is an example of that, and landowners, and some at a national level. So we see making the system work as optimally as possible as a fundamental place to put effort. We really value our place in the system, and it is valued by others. We need to make sure we stay connected and aligned with other major system players, particularly DOC, Biosecurity New Zealand, MFE and LINZ. So our relationships are non-negotiable for us. DOC and MPI are key strategic and operational partners in multiple areas, including highly pathogenic avian influenza or bird flu, wilding conifers, wallabies and others. We work with mana whenua in place, and our philosophy is that we're all working to the same broader goals, but we have different strengths that we individually bring to the table. We're seen as a key player and are sought out for our operational insights, expertise and regional local knowledge. A really good example of that is the DOC, Biosecurity New Zealand and Te Uru Kahika MOU. So you might recognise a few people in that photo there. So that includes obviously regional council staff, but as well as senior managers from Biosecurity New Zealand. Stu Anderson's there, and we've got Steph Rowe from DOC, so both Deputy Director Generals as well as other senior managers. But it only works because people own it, show up, and are willing to have honest conversations. Honest conversations about what works, but almost more importantly, what doesn't, and how to do it better. We're also working on doing the same thing with biodiversity. So there's been the Biodiversity Leadership Forum, which is, we're now creating a new forum which includes biodiversity and biosecurity, with the aim of running that particular group the same way we run the MOU group. So regional delivery of national programs. Regional and unitary authorities bring regional operational expertise to the table. In particular, we provide operational capacity and local relationships that Biosecurity New Zealand doesn't have, and we're the only ones working across private land directly with landowners. So we take the role of delivery arm on several large national programs which bring in national funding to solve regional issues. So avian influenza is a good example of that. We all know that it's going to arrive at some stage. We don't necessarily know when. We're providing regional leadership within and across regions, which is a big part of that is supporting TAs to be prepared. We've managed to secure $3 million from MPI, which has enabled us to roll out that preparedness program. Wilding conifers is another one where we're working particularly in those regions, of course, where wilding conifers are an issue, and wallaby control is another significant one where we work nationally to protect our individual regions. Another example of working together is shared investment for shared benefits. So that's basically around the tools that we use, whereas instead of each individual council funding and developing a tool 16 times, we do it as one national entity. TRAP NZ is a good example of that, which I think we're all relatively familiar with. Biocontrol is another good one. So we all know what biocontrol is. That's around introducing things like weevils or wasps that actually control some of those invasive pests. So we're part of the National Biocontrol Collective. So we fund around $500,000 each year to that collective as a nation. So rather than each individual council putting in $10,000, $20,000 or $30,000 and achieving very little, together we achieve quite a lot. So those particular biocontrols that you can see there, at the top is the nodding thistle receptacle weevil, as I'm sure you were all aware. Going around clockwise, bottom right is the ragwort flea beetle, and then the one at the bottom left is Darwin's Barbary flower weevil. And there's been several examples where biocontrol releases have been quite successful in relation to green thistle beetle for Californian thistle, a mite for Scotch broom and white broom, another fungus for highly invasive Chilean needlegrass, and there's also a fungus that helps to control Tradescantia. And some other examples are the weed busters and also training that we do collectively across the country. Another really important thing is engaging in national policy conversations. So there's a lot going on in the national policy space. So aside from resource management and local government reforms, with biosecurity legislation changes, policy reviews, and biodiversity and biosecurity strategies and action plans. So we want to support development of an effective system policy. We're now sought out for our input and advice during policy development. So working together helps us immensely. We talk with one voice instead of 16 and have a unique perspective that central government values. Working through the virtual office gives us the capacity we need to engage and can coordinate the expertise from across councils into one response. So we're just using one or two people to speak for the sector. So some examples, the Biosecurity Act changes coming next year, Action for Nature, which is the New Zealand Biodiversity Strategy Implementation Plan, which we're heavily involved with, the Biosecurity Action Plan, which is system focused, that's identifying key actions that we need to work to improve the system, which we're part of as well, part of that steering group. Review of risk organisms response policy, which is a good example of the way we affect the way B and Z in terms of a guide which responds to incursions. So we're part of the project team and governance of that particular project, and we're also involved with a number of other things in that space as well. So key projects underway for our SIG. We've got multiple projects underway, but our main focuses are on three particular things. So preparing for system reforms. So multiple aspects here. First is feeding in and influencing reforms where we can. We talk about this stuff, but I think it can be lost. This is one of the big risks for local government reform, the fact that we have this network, that we're working collaboratively together, that makes the system work better and it lifts the game of what we do and the impact that it has on not just biodiversity, but also particularly economic outcomes with agriculture and primary production. So if we lose this network, we're going to lose something fairly significant, in my mind at least anyway. So we're preparing for the transition and making sure councils are ready. We need to make sure the biomanagement functions are embedded in resource management reforms and local government reforms, and we're ready to get on with it. We've got a biosecurity benefits paper which articulates the value proposition, which should be released very soon now, if you haven't already got a copy. So we've done a piece of work which gives us a view on the value of our biosecurity work. We've based this on the before the deluge work done in the river management space. So you may have seen the email that Steve sent out last night or earlier today. So through that, the government has effectively given river managers across the country and the regional network millions of dollars. So I've got some stats here. As a sector across the country, we spend around $142 million a year on biosecurity, which is protecting about $34 billion of the primary sector. If we stop doing that work, it's estimated that the cost would be, for 5 years, would be around $1.5 billion, which is 12 times what we're spending in 1 year. And every year we're avoiding production losses of around $285 million, so that's twice what we're spending. So yeah, I think that's probably pretty well understood. So really the aim is to produce documented evidence we can use to inform influencers and decision makers on the positive benefits and value of these programs, something that we inherently know, but have not documented in this way in the past. And then regional pest management plan alignment. So it's a little bit like the Clean Hull program. If we have more alignment with our regional pest management plans, then we're going to get better outcomes across the country. Pests, as I said, don't recognise borders, so that will mean that that alignment will make it clearer for the public if they've got a farm in 2 regions, for example, what the rules are, but it means that we can manage those pests more effectively as well. So in summary, we've got important roles to play in biomanagement. We're statutory players and we're viewed by others as a critical part of the system. We're good at delivery and sought out and relied on for our operational expertise. Our work has impact. We're a regional delivery superpower. We work as a sector where it makes sense because we must think bigger than just our own regions. We don't see it as something optional but essential. Te Urikahika and the SIG network are key mechanisms for us. One voice, shared expertise when we need it, easier engagement with system partners, and overall more impact than what we would have individually. We're always looking to avoid duplication, find efficiencies and cost savings. Why do something 16 times when you can do it together once? happy to take questions.
So how do we feed this in effectively to the local government reorganisation plans? Is there some mechanism that would enable that to be front and centre?
So, as I said, that biomanagement piece of work that we've done is a report that we'll be sending to various, we'll be releasing it publicly. We'll also be presenting it to the government. It will be shared across the regional network as well as the territorial authority network, so that hopefully mayors and other councillors will read it and understand the importance of this work. I guess it would be really good for each of us in this room to be having those conversations when we're meeting people of influence or meeting influencers, not the ones on TikTok, but the ones in real life. So I think the conversations that we're having, such as the forum that we had on Thursday, I was trying to get this message across to the people in the room there. So I guess it's those kind of examples. It would be good if the primary sector really understood and valued what the regional sector does, rather than just seeing us as a regulator that stops them from doing things. In actual fact, the work, particularly the non-regulatory programs that we undertake, provides billions of dollars worth of value to the primary sector. And if it wasn't for that work, then farmers wouldn't just be battling the weather, they would be battling numerous more pests and diseases than what they currently have, and that would have a significant impact on their bottom line, and they need to recognise that, so that when they're influencing people or talking to politicians and others in their own interest groups, they don't just see regional councils as a roadblock, but recognise the fact that we're providing significant benefit to that sector.
So the feds are key.
Feds are pretty key, yeah.
And surely the TAs are similarly key in all of this, given that we don't have a voice.
We have a voice, absolutely we do. We don't necessarily have that direct line or an ability to do things in a formal way, but we certainly have a voice. Yeah, absolutely, if TAs can recognise this, and obviously decision makers in central government that will make the ultimate call, then we'll be in a better place, hopefully, to continue to deliver these services.
Okay, Craig.
Yeah, I was just going to say, absolutely. Yeah, we need to, and Taranaki need to beef it up and make sure that it's not just a report is released and hopefully they pick it up and read between the lines. It needs to be accompanied by some pretty strong wording and some facts and figures and some of those numbers that you're talking about too, as part of the front page, as part of the headline, as part of the letter that goes with it.
Well, isn't that your job as our chair?
Yes, I'm more than happy to do that.
Good.
He's just telling us he's going to do.
Oh, he's telling us he's going to.
I'm going to. Well, we need to do, but also across the. Obviously, it's not just about Taranaki here. We're talking about the entire sector.
But we need the message to going out.
So
to be the local champion of it.
So yeah, no, absolutely, Craig, and through your chair. So as I said, Te Hika has a virtual office. So there's a number of staff there, including comms people, so they're very aware of this and using their networks to get the information out. It's not only the report, there will be webinars. We've got one-pages like this, which gives you just a brief overview of the facts and figures that I talked about. So there's a range of different options for media, if you like, mediums that we'll try and get the message out there. Yeah.
Okay. Alan?
I was just curious, with the uncertainty going forward of what's going to happen, is this something central government would pick up or could pick up, and whether it would fit under a DOC arm or something like that to progress with that, knowing that it is so regionally significant?
Well, like I said, I mean, there's a number of different players within the system, and each has its unique role, if you like. So, DOC has its role, which looks after public conservation land. Whereas as a regional sector, DOC looks after a third of New Zealand. We effectively look after the other 2/3.
More efficiently too.
And so the network really is about what we're doing in the regions, but for that, across that other 2/3 of New Zealand. So DOC aren't going to be able to pick it up because that's not their rohi, it's not their jurisdiction. And so it is really down to local government. And MPI are looking at things at that national government department level, and they set the legislation and they do a few things on the ground, but not a lot. We're the ones that have the teams of people that are actually out there doing the mahi, building those relationships with individual farmers, with whānau and hapu, and central government isn't doing that. So it really is down to local government.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just
One, Peter.
kia ora tātou, sorry for my lateness. Just wanted to mihi to Dan and the Te Kahika national team for the work that you're putting in this space, and just recognising that while in the past there may have been a bit of angst between LGNZ and Te Kahika about who's doing what and is this a breakaway, that I think there's a genuine desire to work more closely together about getting these key messages across, regardless of who does the work. It's important that the work's being done, and so I think there's more cohesion sector-wide to back up those that are doing the mahi. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
If there's no more for no more, can I have someone move that we receive the presentation?
Yep.
Lead to move, Craig to second. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposition? No. And on that happy note, the meeting is closed.
Thank you.